Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the 1 p.m. Lighthouse event. It's Friday, so we are talking stress management. We have a wonderful speaker, Jean, and she's doing her program Worry Shmorry with us. Before we jump into that, I do want to let you know that immediately after today's 1 p.m. event, we have our support group, and Pam will be leading discussion on our support group. And then starting next Monday, we're just jumping right back in. We have tons of events. Monday, what are we doing Monday? Oh, I can't remember. The whole week is full. I'll share again at the end when I can recall what we're doing next week, but I got to focus on today. Okay. Jean, I'm going to unmute you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Sure, I will. My name is Jean Marcley, and I developed this program many years ago when I was still living on Long Island. And I named it Worry Shmorry probably about 20 years ago. After The Nanny, if you all remember that TV show, The Nanny, I believe she had breast cancer and she wrote a book called Cancer Schmancer. And I said, oh, that is so good. I like that. So I named this Worry Shmorry. So it's like, worry? Why worry? We don't need to do that. So before we start, I want to give you a little bit of background and a bit of a definition about what we're going to be talking about here. There are two kinds of worrying. You can worry about things that you have control over, or you can worry about things that you have no control over. So if you have things that you have control over, well, then do something about it and stop worrying. And if you're worrying about things that you have no control over, well, why are you doing that? Worrying isn't doing anything. You have no control over it. So that kind of worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So the kind of worrying that we are going to be dealing with today is the worrying that you can do absolutely nothing about. So what I want to do, I need you to unmute everybody, please.
Unmuted all participants done. Mute.
Okay, everybody's there?
Everyone is unmuted.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I'm here.
I want to know, is there anybody that's attending this today who has never worried about anything before? I should add that to the laughter yoga, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes. What I would like you to do, take your paper clip or your twist tie, whatever it is that you have, and I want you to just take, if you have a paper clip, just open it up a little bit so you're just working with one wire of it, one part of it. And I want you to start bending it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And just keep doing it. You can do it with a twist tie too. Just keep bending it back and forth and back and forth.
And let it break.
And let it break, yes. Mm-hmm. Any of your paper clips breaking yet?
Nope.
Keep it up.
Mine went.
Okay, there you go. Pay attention. We got them all broken yet?
No, mine went.
Uh-huh.
Mine's all gone.
Uh-huh.
I don't have one.
Mine's made of steel, evidently.
Well, but you're getting the idea, right, of what you need to do? Okay, excellent. What just happened is you concentrated on what you were doing, and you just kept moving that back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Another name for that is worrying that paperclip. You just worried that paperclip until it broke. What did you have to do in order to make that paperclip break?
Keep bending it.
Had to be faster and faster.
Could you stop doing what you were doing?
Sure.
Well, it wouldn't break without doing back
Exactly.
and forth.
Exactly. When you're worrying something, you have to keep it up and keep it up and keep it up. A definition of worry is to torment oneself and suffer from disturbing thoughts. To torment oneself and suffer from disturbing thoughts. It's like, really? Is that what we want to do? Is torment ourselves until and suffer with these disturbing thoughts until what? We break? Because that is what's going to happen. We will break eventually. So we will learn today how to stop worrying. So as a noun, a worried condition or feeling is uneasiness or anxiety. So again, worrying is not usually something that we want to walk around feeling like with uneasiness and anxiety. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I find if I'm worrying about something, I go to horrible scenarios.
Exactly. That was my next exactly my next thing I was going to say. No. I'm glad that you brought it up. When you are worrying about something, what is it that you visualize in your mind?
Like I said, a horrible scenario of it happening to a loved one and the worst case happening to a loved one.
Exactly. Everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, the worst case scenario. Now I'm going to share an experience that I had many years ago when I lived on Long Island. And I had been teaching this program for, I don't know, maybe a year or a year and a half. And I knew that it worked, and I used it on different things, but they were kind of small worries. This one evening, my daughter worked at a Kentucky Fried Chicken, because that was back in the days when you could call it Kentucky Fried Chicken. You could use that fried word back then. And she was an assistant manager. She closed the store. It was about 10 miles away, and then she drove home. And she would come home from work like clockwork at 11 o'clock, just as the music to the reruns of MASH was coming on television. So I knew when MASH came on, if she was working at night, that I would hear her car pull in the driveway. I'd see the headlights as she turned into the driveway. We had a gravel driveway, so I could hear her pulling in. Well, this night, there was a terrible, terrible rainstorm, kind of like what we get down here in Florida. I went out on the porch to just see how hard it was raining. My driveway was 4 feet from my porch. I couldn't see my driveway. That's how hard it was raining. I mean, it was just a sheet of rain coming down. And Debbie wasn't home yet, and I started getting worried. And so what did I do? I started visualizing that she had an accident. In my own imagination, I saw the policemen, the fire department, all wearing their rain gear. The rain was coming down. The lights were flashing. They were reflecting in all the water. The car was wrapped around a telephone pole. And just as in my mind, I went to zoom in on the driver's side door that was wide open and see my daughter, whatever, I stopped myself. I said, no, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to see this. My stomach was in knots. I felt like I was going to throw up or maybe have diarrhea. It was horrible what it was doing to me physiologically. And so I said, nope, this is not what I want to do. So what I did was I practiced what I was preaching. And this is how you stop worrying. Instead of putting the vision in your mind of the worst case scenario, I changed it to what I wanted to happen. So what I did is I visualized the headlights as they swept across the window in the den. I heard the sound of the car pulling in the driveway on the gravel. I heard the car door close, and I heard her using her key to come in the back door. And the instant that went out of my head, I was right back. It was almost like I was slammed back into that worry again with the scene of her being in an accident. So I'm going to tell you, it took a lot of effort and a lot of energy for me to keep pushing myself back to visualizing her coming in the door safe and sound. I heard the sounds that I remembered. I saw the things that I remembered, and I just visualized all of those things over and over and over again. And every single time I did that, as soon as I stopped visualizing the positive thing, that horrible accident scene came right back into my head again. I go in the kitchen. Every time I felt that way, like I said, I felt like I was going to be sick. So I went in the kitchen. I'm looking for something to eat. I'm thinking maybe I should pour myself a drink. And then I thought, well, if I do that and something did happen, I want to have my wits about me. So about half an hour went by, and she finally actually did come home. And she was fine. And when she came in the back door, I said, oh, Debbie, I'm so glad you're home and that you're safe. She said, Mommy, it was awful. She said, when I left work, I had to set the alarm. And as soon as I got in the car, she said, the downpour, she said it was so bad I couldn't see the hood ornament on the front of my car. Now, that's a heavy-duty rainstorm. She also could not get back into the store because she had set the alarm, and she doesn't have the means of unsetting the alarm herself. Only the owner had that. And then when she was driving home, it was so bad that she pulled over into a parking lot until it let up a little bit because she just couldn't see where she was going. And I said, oh, Debbie, that must have been awful. And we hugged, and we were so happy that she got home safe. And I was so happy that she was there. And we cut a nice big piece of chocolate cake and had some cake and milk and celebrated that everything was okay.
And to think you lived through that without a cell phone.
That's right. Now, let me ask you all a question. If I had worried about that for the whole time, that whole 30 or 40 minutes, how do you think I would have reacted when she finally walked in the door? Just think about it. You're worried, sick. I mean, absolutely sick. When she walked in,
would have fainted.
I was thinking that I probably would have said, "Why are you late? Why didn't you call me?" So I would have been yelling at her because I'm all stressed out. And she was all stressed out because she knew I would be worried, and there was nothing she could do about it. And she didn't want to stop somewhere to call me because there weren't any places open. You know, the payphones.
How much longer would you have had to wait before you had to change your underwear?
I'm not sure. I am not sure. But anyway, I would have yelled at her. She would have yelled at me. What are you mad about? I'm the one that had to drive through that. I'm the one that, had this life-changing experience or whatever. And we would have had a big old fight between mother and teenager. And it would have been just awful. So the fact that I didn't worry, did it have anything to do with the outcome?
No.
No. Did it make her safe?
No.
No. Did it change the fact that she did not have an accident?
No.
No, it did not. All it did was make me feel better. It helped my mind and my physical body to deal with the whole thing. I didn't go and have a drink and have her come home and find me drunk and then yelling at her even more because, I don't know, it's maybe that's how it goes sometimes when you're drinking and doing, getting aggravated. So it all worked out just fine. And you all agree that the fact that I didn't worry about it had nothing to do with the outcome, correct?
Correct.
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 Okay. What I want you to do now is I want you to think of 5 things that you have worried about in the last month or so. If you have a way that you can write them down, then do that. If you don't, just get them in your head, because you probably don't have to think about it very much. You can probably tick off 5 of them pretty quickly. And it doesn't have to be complete sentences in your head or on the paper, just 1 or 2 or 3 words.
Coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly worry about my daughter who is immune deficient, who could get coronavirus. She's locked in her house right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she could die.
Right.
And that really bothers me, because
Well,
her immune system is because her immune system is so low. I mean, she's 40. I still worry about her because of this.
Right. Well, what I want you to do is the coronavirus is probably going to be on everybody's list, but I want you to look at other things that you have worried about in the last month or 2.
You want us to tell you them?
No, I want you to just get them in your head or write them down for yourself.
Okay.
Speech mode talk. Leave me.
Got mine.
Does everybody have 5 things?
Yes. No, I've only got 2.
Really?
Lucky you.
Wow.
Wow. There's another one.
There you go. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go over your list, either in your mind or on your paper or in your Word thing on your computer, and decide if there's anything there that you worried about in the last month that changed because you worried about it.
Mm-mm.
Nothing.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Isn't that absolutely amazing? Absolutely nothing changed because you worried about it.
Gave me some sleepless nights.
There you go. There you go. But it didn't change anything about what it was that you were worried about.
Mm-mm.
So that is the point that I want to drive home more than anything. Is there anything on your list that you can actually do something about?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yes. Would you like to share?
I get eye injections in my eye because I have both eyes,
Mm-hmm.
every month. And if I don't get them, my eyesight goes down very badly. Can I do anything about not getting the eye injections? No, because I'd go blind completely. Blind.
Okay, but at the moment, is there anything that you can do to be able to get those shots?
I can get in the car and go to the doctor's office to get them.
Okay. Okay.
And the last time we went in the office one at a time,
Mm-hmm.
they came out and got us out of our car, and they would not let my husband go in with me, which he usually does. And not that I needed him, I didn't really need him, but he just follows me in
Right.
and makes sure I get where I need to go.
Right.
And
So then tell me what the worry is there.
What's the worry? These injections aren't exactly comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have this little sense of worry that it's going to be painful.
Okay.
Even though I get an injection to numb my eyeball.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't wait long enough to give the medical injection after they give the numbing injection, then I have a lot of pain because it takes my eyeballs so long to.
Okay, so what can you do so that you have a little more control over that part of it.
Well, the doctor knows this, and it's written in my chart. And if he looks at my chart, which you don't always know that he does, he will remember that and time it. This last time, he told me to time it.
Yes,
And
you
then
time.
to
That's
tell
what
me.
I was going to say. This is your responsibility to time it. It's your eyes. It's your pain or no pain.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility to time it. Yes, don't ever put your life in somebody else's hands, or that when it's not.
Dave, I just lost him.
Am I gone?
Yeah, you're gone. Just a minute, Dave. I just lost him.
Well, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just couldn't see you.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't need to see. I can't see you at all, so.
I'm here.
But anyway, I want all of you to know that if there is something that you're worried about that you do have the ability to take some control over, then take a look at those things and see what there is that you can do about it.
Yes.
The idea here is to only use the examples that you have written down that you have absolutely no control over. Now, I will give you another example of something that happened to me where I used my worry Shmorry, and it was years later. And I found a lump in my breast, and so I just said, oh, this is nothing. It's probably just because there's no history of breast cancer in my family. This is nothing. So I figured it was some kind of a clogged milk duct. A friend of mine had just gone through that. And, but I did go for a mammogram because I'm not, that is something I had control over. I could get it checked out and go for a mammogram. Excuse me. And so I went for the mammogram, and the radiologist came out to see me, and he said, I want you to see a breast surgeon immediately. And I thought, oh my God. So, I mean, he's telling me that he could tell just from the mammogram that this was something that needed to be looked at and taken care of. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to see this as some kind of a lump, and I'll have a lumpectomy, and I'll just get it out of there, and then everything will be fine. So that's what I kept visualizing, was having a lumpectomy, and I visualized the doctor actually sitting across from me and saying, oh, yeah, we got it out. Everything is fine. Well, when I went for the lumpectomy, the doctor sat across from me and said, the tumor has metastasized. And so I have removed several layers of tissue to see, and every single layer of tissue, when I looked at it under a microscope, did have some cancer cells. And so we're sending it off, of course, all the layers of tissue. And we'll just see what happens. So then I started visualizing, all right, some of the tissue is going to have no cancer cells and everything's going to be fine. Nope, that's not what happened. Every single tissue sample had some cancer cells, and so they recommended having a mastectomy. And so I started visualizing about that. Okay, so I'll have the mastectomy, and then the doctor will be sitting across from me and say, everything's fine, we got it all, the lymph nodes are clean, and everything is just fine. And guess what? The doctor sat across from me and said, everything is fine, there were no more cancer cells in any of the breast tissue, and there's nothing in the lymph nodes, you are fine, but you do need to see the oncologist about getting any further treatments. So did the fact that I worried or that I did not worry about what was going on have anything to do with the fact that the lump had already metastasized?
No.
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 Right. So I saved myself a lot of physical and emotional pain and suffering by not worrying about it. I mean, every time it popped into my head, I just said, no, I'm not worrying about it. I see the doctor just telling me everything is fine. And it ended up being fine. In fact, when I went to see the oncologist, she said, we don't even recommend radiation or chemo, and or the tamoxifen. So I didn't have to do anything else after that. I was really rather fortunate when it comes to that.
Yeah, you were.
Yes, I know. And again, I know that if I had worried, because I owned a business at the time, I know that if I had been worrying about it, I wouldn't have been able to run that business. I would not have been able to deal with customers, especially if I had one that was complaining about something. I probably would have bitten their head off. So I know that I benefited, along with my whole family, benefited from me not worrying about it. And when they would start, worrying about it for me, I would say, look, I just want you to do what I'm doing. I'm visualizing that everything is going to be okay. So please just do that with me. That's all I want you to do. So what I did was I used the power of visualization to allow myself to believe that things would be okay. And I knew in my heart that if it turned out to be something different, that I would just deal with that. I would just deal with whatever came up. And some of the synonyms for worry is I'm just listening to this and a thing. Synonyms for worry: tease, harry, hector, badger, disquiet. I mean, we could just go on and on. Anguish, wow. Concern, fear. What causes worry, do you think?
Fear.
Fear, exactly. Now, the one woman who was talking about her daughter with the very compromised immune system, do you feel like there is anything more that you can do for her to stay safe right now? Are you still there? Okay.
Yes. No, she is an adult. It's her responsibility now to keep herself safe and to deal with it.
Yes. And so after listening to this Worry Shmorry program, can you think of what you could do to make it better for you?
I pray a lot.
And I'm glad that you said that, because when you visualize what you want to happen, because what you want to happen is for this whole pandemic to be over and your daughter is fine.
Yes.
That's what you want to happen. And so that's what you keep visualizing, which is very much what we do when we pray. Because what do we say? When we pray, we say, God, please keep my daughter safe. Please keep her away from this pandemic. Please make sure she stays healthy and that she doesn't get it. So that's what we're asking for. So using the visualization is visualizing the prayer. Some of the things that the opposite of being worried is feeling calmness, comfort, confidence, happiness, joy, pleasure, sureness,
Chocolate
and
ice
trust, unconcern. Chocolate ice cream, I think, would come more under the category of comfort food.
Right.
That's for sure.
But it's sure good when you're worrying, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And see, now that's one of the things that we do. And how many of us have done that? Gone and gotten some comfort food or drugs or alcohol, and then regretted it later on. Anybody?
Jelly beans.
Anybody regretted doing that later on?
Oh, yes.
When I gained 2 pounds.
Yes, exactly. Or when you feel sick to your stomach because you ate too many jelly beans, or because you get a toothache.
Chocolate chips are my thing.
Yeah, we all have something for sure. We all have something.
M&Ms.
I want to know now, does anybody have a worry that you think does not fit into this category, that you cannot figure out how to deal with? If you want to share, please do it now. Wow.
I want to share.
Yes,
I'm
please
having
do.
so many challenges of dealing with my vision loss, and it's overwhelming me, and it's scaring me so much. I worry too much about it, and I need to be more proactive about it.
Well, you are already working with the Lighthouse, which seems pretty proactive to me. What else do you think you could be doing?
Preparing to get to look into training and becoming more enabled than I am for losing my visual senses that I've relied on for so long.
And so where is the worry coming in? Because it sounds to me like you have a pretty good handle on it.
Because I'm so scared and just trying to maintain, and I am not having the positive visual that I really should be having. I'm living in a depressed moment of wondering, can I really do this? And that's what scares me, and is being courageous and bold and more proactive, because I know I've got to become more proactive. And if I don't, it's either sink or swim, and I don't want to sink.
Well, then you won't. You won't. And when you feel the fear, when you feel that fear and you think maybe you're not doing enough right now, just see yourself doing some of the things that you are either in training for right now or that you know that you're going to be trained to do later on. Do you understand what I mean? Whether you're going to learn living skills, computer skills, travel skills, O&M, if you're going to get a guide dog, whatever it is that you are planning to do, see yourself doing it and being happy and independent while you are doing it. Of course, you're going to have some fear. I mean, you know, that it's a scary thing. But it sounds to me like you've got it pretty well covered.
Well, and thank God for the Lighthouse Education Center of Minnesota and Division of Blind Service and the support groups and such. It has helped me tremendously, but I need to find inner strength more than I have really found in myself. That I used to feel so optimistic and courageous, but in the last many months, if not year or so, for so much decline in my vision, I have to remind myself to take each day, take a breath, enjoy the moment, and I'm having difficulty not overthinking everything. I always feel that I'm overthinking everything, and it gets overwhelming.
Yes. And so, do you have something to do that that can feel a little bit more uplifting, like if you listen to music, or is there some activity that you have that makes you feel better?
I love music and activities. I don't take advantage of some of the activities I used to enjoy so much. Simple pleasures is gardening, which I have always loved, and it's become more challenging. And yet I'm doing it, but not in the volume that I used to do. And so therefore, I got too much time on my hands, I find.
Yes,
You know
I know what
what?
you mean, especially now.
I kind of understand this very well, what you're going through, because I've gone through it, particularly like you, this past year, because I've lost so much more vision. I've been losing my vision for many years, but this particular last 6 months has been much more challenging. And for me, I think the worry and everything that you're talking about, I've experienced over and over again. But for me, it's been waking up and just accepting it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it's just, okay, this is the way it is, and I'll have to find a way to deal with it. And rather than keep worrying about the loss, I just have to say, okay, that's it. Now let's go on from there. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. It does. But I'm single and not used to being single and living by myself in a modest little 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. And this is something that overwhelms me too, that I think that I'm going to have to downscale in the near future. And this is another just additional worry of many worries of there's so many changes going on and so much adaptation that I need to do, and trying to take one step at a time. But if I find too much downtime, my mind gets sort of overwhelmed.
Yes.
It does get overwhelming.
Yes.
And when you do live alone, it does get overwhelming. Simple tasks like cooking that I used to do. I mean, I still cook, but little things. I make a mess. Believe me, I've made some messes lately, and I have to laugh. Sometimes they're not laughable. Sometimes they're just total frustration. But again, I go back to the fact that you just have to sort of accept it and say, okay, I know what you're talking about. I know there's going to be another step. I know, but I'll take care of that when it comes. But today, I don't have to make that choice today. I can just get through.
I want to share. Go ahead.
One of my worries is that my husband doesn't really take great care of himself, and I worry that if something happens to him, that I will be by myself like David. And so that is a real concern that I have. And I mean, I don't know how to stop worrying because he doesn't worry about himself.
Okay. How about when you are worried about that, being left by yourself to be living on your own, how about if you start seeing yourself living on your own independently, learn the skills that you need now, if that in the event that does happen, if you know how to keep your finances, know where the important papers are, learn to be independent, whatever it is that you need to know, that you need to learn, see yourself doing that. See yourself doing those things. If you have a role model, someone else that you know who is blind or visually impaired and living independently, and you say, well, heck, they're doing it, I could do that too. It would be sad, I understand that, but just sitting around and worrying about it when there are actually things that you can do, so that in the event that does happen, you will still be sad and you will be mourning, but you will not be helpless. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
When my significant other and I just moved here almost a year and a half ago, and we lived out in Arizona in the middle of nowhere. We were 120 miles west of Phoenix. And the reason that we made the move when we did is because he was having some health issues. And with everything being so far away and only one driver, and he wasn't able to drive, I said, this is just not good. So, I mean, we had a lot of friends there that could drive us places, but here you can say, would you mind driving me to the grocery store? It's 5 miles round trip. There, would you mind driving me to the grocery store? It was 100 miles round trip, and I am not exaggerating. So it was a much bigger deal to ask people to help you out. And of course, sometimes they just weren't able to. And so I said, we need to move closer to family, and I have children here in Bradenton, and so that's what we did.
And we have good transportation here in Bradenton.
Yes, they've got great transportation. If anything happens to him, between Handy Bus and Uber and Lyft and my children and my grandchildren, I think I will be just fine. In fact, I know I will be. And some of the skills I'm learning now through the Lighthouse, with the help of the Lighthouse and Blind Services, are things that I'll need to be able to do things like this workshop. Randy and I had a session yesterday and another one on Tuesday to learn how to do Zoom, so I can actually host programs on Zoom. And I can hardly wait. To host one myself. And so but one of the things, there was something I wanted to tell you before, and now I can't remember what it was.
Hey, Jean,
oh well, yes.
While you're thinking, I think part of the problem is everybody's afraid of change. You know, you get comfortable in this certain routine you have.
Absolutely.
The fear of change is more debilitating than the change itself. And it sounds like people are getting their tools in their toolbox so they can cope with the change.
Yes.
But it's transition that's really the big
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. How many people, those of you who use computers with the speech synthesizer or even the magnification, or for those of you who wanted to switch from a flip phone to a smartphone, how many of you did that practically kicking and screaming?
Oh, yeah. It's still smarter.
I'm Norman, and I'm still kicking and screaming.
I've taken classes for over a year, and I still can't catch the iPhone right.
Well, I didn't get an iPhone. I got an Android, and I'm still learning that. I've had it for a year, but I'm learning it because I'm using it, and I have no choice. And when I finally upgraded to Windows 10, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, learning new stuff, and oh man, because things are different. And so I totally understand. And it's a choice. You make the choice. You say, oh, I don't like change either. But I just felt like I had to in order to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And for some of you, you might never have to, because you don't care if you do any of those things. I mean, some people don't even want to be on the internet, and that's fine, because I'll tell you what, you're saving yourself a lot of aggravation. But also a lot of opportunity to do some fun and interesting things. So, but that's, and that was a very good point. That was Kathy that said that, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to change. We do not want things to change around us. We only want to change when we decide we want to change. So
it's harder older to do change too. When you're young, you can do lots and lots of change, but as you get older, change is not the easiest thing to do as we get older.
You're absolutely right. And you don't have to. You can just say, I'm just going to stay right here and let things be the way they are, and I will not be happy because I really want to learn this or that or the other thing, or I really want to go here or there or wherever, and then just be content with that's your choice. So, but you also have the choice to make the changes, even though it's being you are not making the choice to have your vision loss accelerate. But you can make the choice to deal with it in a way that makes you feel better about yourself. And affirmations are really helpful too. And when we did the affirmations program a couple of weeks ago, one of the affirmations is hip hip hooray, I see joy in every day. And that might be a really good way to start the day. Hip hip hooray, there is joy in every day. And and then any time during the day when you're feeling like, oh, I just don't know if I want to do this, just find an affirmation to say. Think of something that you can say, I've gotten through worse than this before. I know I can get through this. Pray about it. Ask your angels for help. But definitely, when you feel yourself worrying and it's making you feel ill, it's making you feel uncomfortable and depressed and stressed out and not feeling very good about yourself, really lowering your self-esteem, that's when you need to change it and take a look at that worry and say, how do I stop thinking about this in this way, and change it to a positive visualization.
Jean,
yeah,
this is Pam. I have two things I wanted to say. It's really hard too. One thing I had to deal with was my daughters, when they wanted me to get into the iPhone. Mom, come on, I've shown you 5 times. See that icon? And I would tell them for the 5th time, honey, I can't see that icon.
mm-hmm.
And it's hard for people to understand.
Yes,
we're doing the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
But it bothered me at first. And using some of your methods is how I overcame that.
Oh, good.
I can about the way they thought about it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
yeah, the thing here's what you do. You say, okay, here's the blindfold. Now we're turning on the voiceover on the iPhone. Now you explain to me and teach me how this works.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That is a good one, Jean, because that's so true. Try to see, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to tell him was that when you are over here today at 2:15, I think many of these people that have been tuning in will find it very interesting what I'm talking about. It has to do with grief and overcoming things. So I think that might be very interesting to them.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. Do we have any more questions about how to stop worrying?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, take us many days probably for your encouragement and help to overcome the challenge, I believe. But I'm so grateful for all these great directions that you're giving to me and the rest of us. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And remember, the more you use it, the more you do this, the stronger that muscle gets. It's just like working out in a gym. The more times you catch yourself worrying and feeling bad about something, and you visualize the positive, the easier it's going to become.
Thank you.
I want to share during this time of isolation for a lot of us is being that I live alone and I don't drive, and I am used to using Uber, Lyft, and I'm so grateful for those services. I'm paranoid to really be out and be in a car, and so I am staying at home, and I get jealous and frustrated and aggravated with myself, all three, for that so many people have the ability, and even people without sight, and I'm partially sighted, to go online to Instacart, order food, Amazon, and I'm not able to do that successfully. And just in the last 3 weeks, I'm feeling, oh my gosh, I've got so much more I've got to learn to do, because all of a sudden in the last 3 weeks, I'm finding that with the, thinking ahead, that this is a real wake-up call of having to get really, really enabling myself to do things that I'm yet to be able to conquer. Even with all the will, I don't have either the ability or the capability at this time, and that's why I'm definitely going to be proactive, get whatever training I can get so I don't feel like I'm in such a pickle that
Yes.
all of a sudden I feel like I am.
Yes. Yes. Well, good for you. Are you learning the computer?
I have done well with it over the last many years, since 2010 with Magic Magnification, but over the last couple of years, switching from Windows 7 to Windows 10 just in the last 3 years is all of a sudden I'm back in diapers again. And Magic is being outdated, and Zoom text is coming in, and so all this I spent the last 15 years with low vision, feeling really comfortable and enabled, and all of a sudden, just in the last 2 years, in the last year, and especially the last 6 months, everything's out of sync. And what I used to be so enabled to do with all this software is not synchronized, and I want to bang my head on the wall.
Yes.
I've leaning out to the Division of Blind Service technical staff and support, and they've been really great, but they have yet in the last year been able to bring me back up to par where I had been for the last 12 years prior. And so I feel like really off balance.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
The thing is, for the last 12 years, today, you can't do anything that you did 12 years ago. If you stop and think of it, you can't do it as well or as quickly.
And I'm sure you all realize that with this coronavirus, the things that are changing are going to stay.
Some of the things.
Yes, some of the things are going to stay.
Yes.
And
Well,
we may all be
just
shopping
common sense.
online.
Yep.
I like shopping online.
I do want to say to the gentleman that is learning to use, what was it that you used before? That's for the magnification?
Magic, and trying to learn Zoom, and
right.
And just trying to navigate.
Right.
And I find going online, Internet Explorer or web searching is amongst the hardest, because with the retinitis pigmentosus that I have, with being partially sighted, it's the same thing on the computer. I have to use 8 times magnification, or at least 6. So on the computer, I've got tunnel vision like in my daily life. You can't see the whole page. And the wonderful software by Freedom Scientific, I don't have the understanding. I haven't mastered it all of the changes from Magic to Zoom text, and
right.
And therefore, that's really got me baffled and very frustrated.
Yes, it is. It is frustrating, and it's not like you can just get help anywhere, because even if you went online to get help, you'd have to be able to find it in order for the tutorial to help you in the first place. But what I wanted to say is that sometimes it is time to stop taking so much time to use the site that you have to read things on the computer, and perhaps switch over to a voice synthesizer, to a screen reading program, and then use your eyesight for other things, or when it's something not so critical. Switch back and forth between the two of them. I remember reading many, many years ago about a woman who was in a skiing accident, and she became a paraplegic. And so when she first was able to use a trapeze kind of a thing to get out of bed and into the wheelchair by herself, it took her a very long time, minutes and minutes and minutes, probably close to a half an hour, to get from her bed to the wheelchair. And then, and she did have family around that could help her. And somebody said to her, why are you spending your time doing that when you could get somebody to help you in the wheelchair in about 15 seconds? And so she thought about it, and she thought, that's true. So she used her the independence that she had for certain things, but if she needed to be somewhere and get other things done throughout the day that she wanted to be in her wheelchair to be able to do, well, then get somebody to help you and get in the wheelchair in 15 seconds. Or have somebody help you get dressed, because then you're done and you're on with the day. The same thing I think might be true for the screen reading programs. It might, at this point in time, it actually might be a good time to learn the screen readers because you do still have some sight, and that may help you with learning the screen reading program. So my father had RP, and so I have a pretty good idea where your eyesight is at. And I have a version of RP, which it used to be called atypical, where I lost my central vision first. So I still have a little bit of peripheral vision. And but at any rate, that's just a thought that I might get yelled at by the people at the Lighthouse who are doing all the training. But
I think it's a very good thing, Jean, what you're saying, because you do have to, if things get too difficult and you're able to get some help, you should have help where you need it and not be so, proud that you don't realize. You put your pride aside and know that you need help and accept the help, but don't become an invalid because you need the help. Just realize, okay, that's the way it is. I got to have this kind of help doing it.
mm-hmm,
I had a little incident yesterday. I had to write a check, and I'll tell you, it was a joke. And I was lucky enough that my granddaughter was with me. She wrote the check. I couldn't have done it. And
Yep.
I mean, I had to laugh, but it had to be done, and I wanted to get it out, so it got done. I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. Absolutely not.
Well, we're going to close this up now, and I hope that you can all remember how to stop worrying, and it doesn't mean that you are never going to worry again, because you are. We all are. What it means is that it's not going to take over our lives, that when we see ourselves just thinking about something relentlessly and we feel like we have no control over our thoughts, that we can remind ourselves, yes, we do have control over our thoughts, and we'll visualize the positive. We'll do what we can to make ourselves feel better in the moment, and take the steps that we need to take to let go of what we think is control, which is why we worry in the first place. So thank you all for coming today. How many are there of us, by the way?
I think we were up to 13.
Oh, okay.
Maybe more by now.
I see 19 on now.
I think we had as many as 21 at one point.
Very
Wow.
nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Very good lecture. Thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And
Thanks,
thank you
Jane.
all for coming. And I'll be interested to listen to this again when Maddie puts it on YouTube.
I